Good morning. Welcome to UUCC. My name is Pat Fuhr, and I'm very happy to be your lay leader today. Welcome to everyone in the sanctuary, those joining us via Zoom or YouTube. And a special welcome to our visitors this morning. Thank you for taking a chance and taking the time to walk through the door or to join us on Zoom or YouTube. If you're curious about our faith, we encourage your questions. We have information about our faith located in the lobby as well as in our community room. Please stick around for coffee, conversation, and today's soup after the service. For those of you joining us remotely, we encourage you to attend the Zoom coffee hour following the service. Images of the congregation may be shared on social media, so if you don't wish to be seen on social media, there are seats available at the back of the sanctuary. Please refrain from talking while we are live, as the house microphones may pick up your conversation and broadcast it to the wider community. And please switch your cell phones to airplane mode or turning them off to avoid any streaming disruptions. The Little Brick Church on Shaver Road in Portage, with the rainbow flag and the Black Lives Matter banner, is our home. We sit on the ancestral lands of the Peoria and the Potawatomi peoples. The elders and their values of wisdom, love, respect, truth, honesty, humility, and bravery are honored by our congregation. We believe that love is love, and it is our responsibility to dismantle white supremacy and build a beloved community that benefits us all. Our spiritual journeys are diverse. Our community is compassionate, inclusive, and united by love. The church is served most Sundays by our minister, Reverend G. Ludwig McCartney, and in other Sundays, guest speakers will come to the podium. Water is life is the spiritual theme for this year. This month marks 80 years since the founding of the United Nations. Reverend G will navigate the Great Divide as they explore the power of cooperation in an age of division. To learn more about our church, including our programs for children and youth, and other opportunities to connect with us during the week, visit our website, uucommunitychurch.org. And a special thanks to everyone who's helping to make this morning's service possible. Our tech team, our coffee hosts, our soup chefs, our greeters, and you. I have a couple of announcements. Our sustainability group meets on Monday, October 20th at 7 p.m. to explore ways to live more gently on the earth. Newcomers are always welcome. Visit our website for login information. And we do hope that you'll join us for our October Thoughtful Thursday on October 23rd at 7 p.m. on Zoom. Our guest speaker will be Dr. Sybil Shattuck, who's an assistant professor at WMU, whose work explores the intersection of ecology and religion. She'll share how climate adaptation and environmental justice are unfolding here in Michigan, and how we can all help build a more sustainable and equitable future. You can register for the Zoom link at our website. And mark your calendars for the exciting UUCC 2025 Service and Goods Auction on Friday, November the 14th at 5 p.m. Whether you're joining us in person at UUCC or tuning in via Zoom, this event promises to be fun and exciting for everyone. And to make this year's auction the best ever, we need you to donate. Lots of unique goods and exciting services. Look for the donation form in your weekly email and send us your donation description by November the 5th. And it's always a great time, and there's always really cool stuff. So I hope you all join in. Before we light the chalice, I have a few words from Deborah Falk. A chalice lit in our midst is a symbol of our liberal faith, a faith that's built on the foundation of freedom, reason, and tolerance, a faith that's sustained by acts of kindness and justice, a faith that visions a world flourishing with equality for all her people, a faith that demands the living out of goodness, a faith that requires thoughtfulness, a faith of wholeness. This tiny flame is the symbol of the spark of all this within each of us. And now we'll light the chalice. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share.
This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for lands afar and wide. This is my home, the country where my heart is. Here are my hopes, my dreams, my holy shrine. But other hearts in other lands are beating with hopes and dreams as true and high as mine. My country's skies are bluer than the ocean, and sunlight beams on clover leaf and pine. But other lands have sunlight too and clover, and skies are everywhere as blue as mine. Oh, hear my song, thou God of all the nations, a song of peace for their land and for mine.
Our reading today is from our hymnal, and it's reading number 475. We, the peoples of the United Nations. We, the people of the United Nations, determined to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights, in the dignity and worth of the human person, in the equal rights of men and women and of nations large and small, to promote social justice and better standards of life and larger freedom, and for these ends to practice tolerance and to live together in peace as good neighbors, to unite our strength to maintain international peace and security, to ensure that armed force shall not be used save in the common interest, to employ international machinery in the promotion of the economic and social advancement of all people, have resolved to combine our efforts to accomplish these aims. This is the Charter of the United Nations.
All we can do is be there for each other in these times when we don't know what to do. All we can do is be there for each other and help each other through twists and turns, unexpected, day by day moving on. I don't have all the answers, come what may, right or wrong. All we can do is be there for each other in these times when we don't know what to do. All we can do for each other and help each other through. Crashing waves touch the shore. Time moves faster every day. Ebb and flow, no control. All that's left to say is all we can do is be there for each other in these times when we don't know what to do. All we can do is be there for each other and help each other through. And help each other
Good morning and welcome. I'm Reverend G, absolutely delighted to be here with you today. And I'm just so grateful that you chose to spend this time with us. Welcome you here, there on the holy interwebs, whether you're joining us via Zoom or YouTube or later. It's just good to be together. And I'm so glad that dear Luke made it. I can't even imagine his stress. He is a student at Western and was told last night that he had to be at a rehearsal that only ended at, what, 8:50 or 9:50?
9:50.
9:50. So he had to rush here. We had to change around a little bit our service, which is funny because 2 weeks ago I spoke in South Bend. There's a UU church in South Bend, and I spoke there. This was my second time there, and somehow I convinced myself that South Bend was an hour behind us. So they also had to do some switcheroo for me to make it for my talk. I have never once in my life been late for a service. In fact, if I am on time, I consider myself to be late. So when I'm late, I don't even know who I am. So thank you, Luke, for making it, and we're happy to make all the switcheroos to accommodate. The year is 1945. The guns in Europe have quieted down, but the war is still raging in the Pacific. And 193 nations, representatives of them, meet in San Francisco because the leaders realize that we need to do something here. We've just had 30 catastrophic years with 2 world wars in there. Millions of people have died, and we can't keep doing this. We've got to do something. The League of Nations has failed spectacularly, so that's not the answer. What is the answer? So today, I will talk about 3 things. When, why, and how the UN was formed. I will talk about thick and thin connections, about forced familiarity, and then, of course, application for today's world. Okay. When, why, and how the United Nations was formed. 1945. It's the spring. They come together. They want to pass this charter that Pat just read us about. And I'm not going to repeat what the charter is all about because Pat read it, and I'm so glad you did that. They realize we've got to do something. We can't keep repeating this. The hell we've been through, we do not wish it upon our children. We must make changes. But what sort of changes can we make? And how can we make these changes? Think about this. It's 1945. The war, the air is still full of the smoke of the Holocaust, of the crematoriums. Pretty soon, the added plume of 2 atomic bombs will be there. These are nations who just weeks and months ago have been shooting at each other. Nations who wanted to eliminate each other. And now the representatives are gathered, trying to figure out a collective future. Thick and thin connections. What's a thick connection? It's you and I. We know each other, we love each other, we're friends, your family. This is a thick connection. This is something like I can do a trust fall, you'll be there to catch me. These are very important connections. They are fragile though, and almost impossible to scale. But it's what we want. We want to know that we have this kind of trust, that you are not going to attack me, that you will be there, that your yes is a yes, your no is a no, and that we are each looking out for each other. That's a thick connection. But is it feasible for 193 nations who have very, very different needs and goals? Can thick connections be established among these nations? Thin connection with your barista. It's a low emotion, high frequency encounter. Every day, in the morning, I get my coffee. Hello, how are you? I wish you well. We do well in a room together. But we don't really know much about each other. We're polite though. We can exist very kindly. But there is not that strong connection between us. And this is what's interesting to me. Of course, forming the UN was very important. But how they did it, that's what fascinates me. It fascinates me because they recognized and they accepted that we cannot create thick connections among nations, but we must create thin connections. Because prior to this, nations, leaders of nations would come together only before they started shooting at each other or right after they stopped. And other than that, there was no connection among nations. There was some thick connection among some nations, few nations. But there was no connection among all the nations. And so the wisdom was, let us make it possible for us to come together on a regular basis. So we don't just meet before we shoot at each other or right after we stop, but we meet on a Tuesday. We talk about stuff. We don't just talk to each other in the UN Security Council, but we come together in small rooms, in committees, and representatives of Russia, Iran, US, have to establish the standard size of a shipping container. The small stuff, that's the big stuff. How about telecommunications? Talk about that on a Wednesday. Talk about that for 3 weeks in a row. Come together. Eat in the same cafeteria. Pass each other in the hallway. What those people established, and finally they passed the charter on October 24, 1945, is the plumbing of the world. You know, the fancy faucet is not nearly as important as the plumbing, to make sure that that water drains, that has a way. And that's what the United Nations established. A hallway where all the representatives have to pass each other. Where they had to make sure that there is a flow among nations. It didn't require for them to like each other, love each other. They just had to be able and have to be able to coexist in the same room. Develop thin familiarity. Thin familiarity. Oh, I know you. And then once you have some familiarity with someone, you may not love them, you may not like them, but there is a predictability. We kind of know how the Russians think. We kind of know how the Iranians think. We kind of know how so on and so on and so on practices politics in this context of the world. And that's the genius of the UN. And of course, it was established long before I was born, long before many, many people were born. Some of you were around when it was established. But it was established a long time ago. Therefore, we don't know the history of it. We don't know what preceded the UN. All we see that it is a bureaucratic nightmare. All we see that when the Security Council meets together, and that's the one that's televised. The little subcommittees are not televised. The Security Council comes together and people just talk and nothing happens. It's bureaucracy. And bureaucracy is not glamorous. Quite the opposite. It's boring. But that is why the UN was created. To bring in the boring meeting. Because the exciting meeting ends in war. Make it boring. So today, of course, there's those of us who don't have the historical knowledge to know why it was necessary, why it came around. And we may think that the UN is not necessary. And in fact, it is very, very necessary. It is very, very necessary because it teaches us about the importance of thin connections, when in fact we are hardwired for thick connections. We're hardwired for the need to be able to completely trust each other. Because our existence for the longest time in history was in tribal context, small tribes, and those are all about thick connections. But we've outgrown it. We've evolved, we developed a different way of existence, and now we must learn to work with thin connections. Forced familiarity. What is forced familiarity? It is when a leader comes in, and for that leader, it isn't enough that you obey their rules. They also want to force you to love them, to adore them. This is dictators. If you don't love them, you are the enemy of the nation. And if you are the enemy of the nation, you must be either eliminated, but at the very least, punished. Forced familiarity. And of course, we do recognize that today in this country of ours, that it is being introduced to us. It's a new concept for us. I grew up with it, but for this country, this is a new concept. In fact, I just read recently, like this morning, that there are some Republican senators and leaders who have called the upcoming No Kings protest a terrorist organization. So they want the forced familiarity and they want thick connections. But that's not possible. It's not possible with a nation like ours. Also, for free thinkers, for independent thinkers, it's not possible. We don't all love the same people. We don't all love the leaders. But that doesn't mean we don't all can live together. We don't all can develop thin connections to coexist and to create a future that is peaceful, that is prosperous and possible. Thin connections versus thick connections. Forced familiarity. So, application for today. I sometimes get lost in these reels on my smartphone. Do you? And I watch them and then I scroll and I scroll. And most of them are cooking and baking because I do love to bake. I also love to cook. And, you know, the algorithm feeds you the ones that you watch the most. But then every now and then, something else comes on, and if I scroll on it, then it feeds me more and more and more. And some of them that I'm being fed to occasionally is when it's two screens. So somebody is talking, and another one is reflecting on whatever this one says. This one says, wow, I didn't vote for this. I didn't realize it was going to be like this. Wow, my wife was deported. I thought that they were going to go only after the criminals, but they deported my wife. Or it's the farmer who says, I'm going bankrupt. I didn't realize when I voted for this government that this would happen to me. And then this one down here says, yeah, what did you think, buddy? What you voted for is for evil to happen to everyone else but to you. I have no compassion for you. You deserve what is coming your way. May you go bankrupt, and your children and your children's children. You deserve this. This one wants thick connections. Understandable. There's anger. There's resentment here. There is disappointment. I understand it. And it leads nowhere. It leads to war. It leads to shooting. It leads to disconnect and a terrible future. This isn't any better than voting for that. This isn't any better than that. Both these have to come to an agreement of a thin connection. That we must find that which is common and then work towards that. That we must find. And then the rest, we have thin connection. We can coexist in a room, in a country together, without hating each other, without wanting to punish each other, and without needing to make the other one out to be the evil one. It leads nowhere. It leads to no possible future. And then just go within and notice your feelings as I am sharing this with you. How you're agreeing or disagreeing with me in this moment. And just be with that. Just notice, be with that. And then I also invite you to think, what would a thin connection for this person look with that person? And with this to that. Thick connection, forget about it. But what would a thin connection look like? Can we agree that we all want to live in a free country? I think they both want it. Can we agree that we all want financial freedom? Well, I think they both want it. Can we agree that it's sure nice to be able to speak one's mind? Freedom of speech. I think for the most part they both want it. Can we agree that we do not want to be scared of our government? We really don't. We don't want to live in a world where we're scared of our own government. Can we agree? I think we can. Okay. How do we make these things happen? How do we make these things happen considering we live in the same room? We pass each other in the same hallway. How can we make that happen? right now, when the division in this country is so bad, we all want to run to the thick connection, to our tribe, lick our wounds together, speak ill of the other. There's an African tradition where when someone in the tribe, in the community commits something bad, the others surround him or her, surround them, and they speak good of them. They tell them, you did this good 2 weeks ago. You did that wonderful thing 10 years ago. They remind him, they remind them of the good that they've brought into this world. Because at time of division, all we want to see is just the negative, how you hurt me. But there's also good. There's also good. It's Alpha and Omega. What if we could remind each other all the good that we've done, all the good that we're capable of, instead of holding each other to the worst deed. Remind each other of the goodness, and then we'll work out the rest later. I think today we are called for the wisdom of thin connections. Go against our natural instinct for thick connections. It is the plumbing of the world. It is the plumbing of our country. It makes the flow possible or impossible. And we want it to be possible. If you have ever had a sink that was plugged up, you know how important that is. And our nation is kind of plugged up right now. We must make the flow once again possible. And it will not happen by focusing all the bad things that we have done, perceived bad things that we've done to each other. Instead, we must come together and remind each other of the good that we have done and that we are still capable of. And then move on from there. We are called to envision not the world that's been, but the world that is to be. The world that is to be. That is kind, compassionate, where equity matters, equality matters. A world that cares about climate control. A world that doesn't want to see genocide and will not allow genocide. A world that constantly strives to be just a little bit more honest, just a little bit kinder, and care about each other just a little bit more. And make that happen on a Tuesday and on a Wednesday. And not just when big things happen, but all the time. That is, to me, the brilliant lesson of the UN. It isn't glamorous. It isn't spectacular. But it's amazing. Because while it's not perfect, it's kept our world reasonably peaceful. So may we find it in ourselves to settle for thin connections. For the sake of a possible future where we can work on the big things such as global warming, AI, peace and connection. And so it is.
Thank you, Reverend G. Let's all hope for thin connections. Your contributions are a tangible commitment to the mission and the vision of UUCC. Each time you give, you renew this commitment. Your support is entwined with all that we believe and all that we do here together. The slide on the screen shows a few ways to give. You may mail a check to our building, give electronically through our church website, use the Venco app on a smartphone or tablet, or place a check made out to UUCC and the offering baskets as they come around.
What kind of world do I wanna see? What kind of world do I wanna leave to my children's children? Now is the time to make up my mind. What kind of world is this gonna be? What kind of world will be my legacy to the generations for all humankind? It's time to decide what kind of world. Will it be peaceful? Well, am I? Will it be joyful and kind? Will it be all those things a child so easily describes? Oh yeah. Will everybody have enough? Will we speak in the language of love? Somehow I'm suspecting it's all up to how you and I decide. What kind of world do we wanna have? When will we be ready to start giving back to this precious place? To every young face, tell every boy and girl, what kind of world? Will it be peaceful? Well, am I? Will it be joyful and kind? Will it be all those things a child so easily describes? Oh yeah. Will everybody have enough? Will we speak in the language of love? Somehow I'm suspecting it depends on what you and I decide. What kind of world do we wanna have? When will we be ready to start giving back to this precious place? To every young face, tell every boy and girl, what kind of world? What kind of world?
Thank you, Luke. And now it's time to extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of a community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Your choices shape the world. Your choices shape the world. And so it is.